Introducing one of a more simple, straightforward method to bring down some particular layout, especially for adaptation for my regular Blizzard Lalo attack. So what I was trying to do is trying to compensate and adapt the new Eternal Tome. As you can see, we usually blimp and pair it up with Eternal Tome, but now we don't have the old Eternal Tome. What do we do? Here's what I come up with. So back in the days, back in when I was Town Hall 13, I tried to educate my teammate to do a successful Blizzard. That is how you delivered your, whether it's a super wizard in the blimp or a super archer in the blimp. To do that, the safest way is to pair it up with Eternal Tome. But if you just spam everything, over 50%, over half of the time, group of army getting split in half. Needless to say, when a whole group gets split, it gets weakened. This is the main reason we fail. That's how the most casual player operates. Now, I'm no mean disrespect. I came a long way. In the early stages, I was one of them. So I mentioned I'm trying to come up with a way for those who are easy player, a more adaptable way, a more comfortable way, as known as brain dead method, brain dead core as we speak. So what I did is simply add one step. Never have I shared any spam method, but for the first time I am spamming, embracing the way of spamming. I kid you not. Now, but the difference is I add one simple step before I spam. Is to blitz, is to punch a hole with my own Sui. Now here's what I did. We encounter a sweeper over here. We paired up with our blimp alongside with our own main force and do a simultaneous charge as known as spam. So to avoid this air sweeper, we spam from here. In order to avoid any splitting, first we punch through with our own Sui, generate big enough of a gap, so when we spam, our main force won't split in half. Further, to secure our integrity of the whole army, since there's no Town Hall Blast, we can safely Blizzard and land our blimp over here. We paired up with our Invis spell, so the best part is our main group goes around and finish up here. Now I switched to Dragonrider because it's user friendly. Hear me out. It has less operation, less tending to do. When we do Lalo, we need a lot of focusing, a lot of timing, the entry point. But when it comes to dragon or dragonrider, once you press eternal tome alongside with healing tome, there's not much to do. You're set for good. This is why it worked. Once we launched the blimp, we got occupied with our undivided attention, focusing on our super wizard. There is no time to tend to the need of our dragons. You can just pull off a 3-star with your whole 30 balloon 3 hounds getting deployed at the same time. But you can do it with Dragonrider. You have to follow up with Headhunter and a few spells afterwards and during the end of the game. They all happen after you dealt with your blizzard attack. Less than 20 seconds from the time you land your blimp. Then you're taking care of your super wizard. And in this period of time, 20 seconds, your dragon's getting constantly healed up, so there's pretty not much you have to worry about. Be aware, this approach is only suitable for compact core. We're going left flank. So to counter out the balance, we set up our Sui towards the right. It naturally sets up this clockwork motion. Be sure to have your blimp slightly delayed. The invis spell naturally guides the dragon from not crossing the map. What it does is preventing from splitting. So see, you got some group over here. If this some of the group of the dragon gets to cross the center and split right, then we have a situation we call splitting. At least that's what I call it. And basically we don't want to see that. Okay. Stay strong together. This is exactly how I taught my member back in the days, back in when I was Town Hall 13. That was like a year and a half before. And it works perfectly in this stage of this game. But when it meets today's Eternal Tome rework, it has a synergized effect. Hopefully this could inspire some of the player that is watching. Okay, now this is a bit unorthodox. It is not the ideal layout because the weight shift from center down to a bit south. Now ideally we want to land our blimp here. We could either charged in, but the Eternal Warden effect wouldn't fully benefit. So we want to start our Eternal Tome in the middle of our whole travel distance from the beginning to the place we land our blimp. So both blimp and our main force gets the benefit, full benefit. Hypothetically, if we taken out this chunk with our Sui, where dragon is going like this, another clockwork motion. Now you see here, by the time they travel till here, the ability has worn out. We have over a third of the base with our dragon without any ability assist. That means the higher rate of failing. Compare what I did here is to simply travel further into the base, 2 o'clock. And we set up our anchor point with our blizzard. Then we find the chunk where we have to dissect the base with our sui. Travel further before you activate your ability, so the main force can have more durability. But here's the kick. It is still one of the longest distance. Sui had its own limit. This is the furthest as it's get to push. With its invisible spell, the dragon gets to steer off and not getting split. But now what we have here, since the core has been shifted, the invis spell is covering a little bit towards the south. That is the difference it makes. Within this yellow area, these buildings couldn't get destroyed by Sui because Sui has its own limits. They push us further as they can get. Now what's left? These are the building steers off the dragon. Even with the help of the invisible spell, the dragon still gets split. This is a great example what I just explained. These are the building potentially drives your dragon away your originated path. They get drawn away by this scatter shot. This is the deadly situation I've been mentioned. With a off-centered core, it could lead up to this. No matter how far your Sui pushed, they just couldn't manage to push through. Now my Sui really did a great job, but it was just beyond its limit. They couldn't reach that scatter shot. Center distribution base. The Sui gets a clean cut out of the base. There is no remain building whatsoever. There is no remaining building on the right flank of the main force. In the dead center, it's easier to reach from every angle. Unlike this layout, it has to push further into the core, which has a higher workload, more likely to fall short and fail. So the result is to have the remain building, which supposed to be surgically removed by the Sui group stranded on the base. Moving on to the third layout. This one is more friendly towards this type of approach. It's not clumped up in the center. It's a bit slightly towards the south. Again, now this is the ideal core distribution. Slightly shifting towards the south. Compared to the last layout, it has more centered weight distribution. So I'm going downwind with my main force alongside with my blimp. probably going in like this. Blimp is slightly straightforward. So, taking out this chunk. The travel distance isn't that great, so it's more safe, friendlier for our blimp to land properly early on the ability. Because they're up against one air defense and a vicious royal champion. As long as the warden travels with this fast moving pace of dragonrider to cover the aura over the blimp. Lalo couldn't do that because Lalo is more of a slow-paced troop. I find that dragonrider is really suitable for this approach, because even dragon gets bogged down if it has more building to clear. When it's get bogged down and not moving forward, warden gets stuck behind. Then the rest of the picture is having your blimp charging forward with all by itself. And that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching.